Hi, Equals. It's Kim, and it's Independence Day week. It's Independence Week. Yeah, because the 4th of July is this week. Anyway, welcome to Kim Perfect TV. This is my channel where I talk about LGBT issues. And when I was growing up, there was a number of songs. There have been a number of songs about Independence Day. And one of them was actually, I think it was a country pop song. And it was a play on Independence Day, and that the actual independence was from an abusive home situation. And so there's a lot of ways to think about independence. And so today I'm thinking about independence in terms of independence from reliance on binaries. Okay, so what's a binary? Well, binary is the idea that there is a thing and its opposite. So there is a cold and then there's hot, or there is on and then there's off, or there is man and then there is woman. And those are kinds of the idea of the opposites. Now, as humans, we have become flexible enough to understand that, there is cold and there is hot, and then there's all this warm, variations of warm in between. So we're okay with that. On and off with electricity and the light switch, there really is just kind of like on and off, unless you've got a dimmer switch, and now we've got kind of variations on and off. But also, if you think about on and off in terms of like the idea of he was on his game, or she's a little off today. So on being like this really positive thing, and off kind of being kind of a negative thing. But then there'd be all kinds of variations of whether they're on their game or off their game that day. So even on and off, in our language, we understand that there is middle ground. So why is it that we have such an issue with insisting that man and woman is one or the other, and that there is somehow not, that we deny the existence of anything in between? Part of this would be because of some of the religious texts that we have that say, that God created man in his image, and then he created woman, or variations on that origin myth. And I don't say myth dismissively, but it is an origin myth. That may be partially where it comes from. Another is societally, we've defined in some places, or at least historically, that men have certain privileges that women wouldn't have. We got a lot of hang-ups around whether somebody's a man or whether somebody's a woman. And then there's the concept of, well, how do we define man or woman to start with? And I know that some people define man or woman based on the genitalia between your legs when you're born, and the doctor kind of lifts up your feet and goes, oh, it's a girl, or oh, it's a boy. And all they've done is taken a quick glance at what is between the legs. And to reduce being a man or reduce being a woman to genitalia seems to be a bit of, or to do a disservice to the complexity that is our gender. First off, the medical establishment has decided that certain size genitalia counts as male and certain size genitalia counts as female. And as often as redheaded babies are born where their genitalia falls outside those arbitrary or relatively arbitrary measurements that the medical establishment has decided means male or female, or man or woman. And the children that fall outside those measurements today would be described as intersex. They have genitalia that is neither clearly female nor clearly male. Historically, surgery would have been done on those infants to correct them to female. What happened as a result of that practice was that about 50% of those young people grew up, got to, into puberty and beyond, and something just was off in the way that how they felt about themselves as opposed to what was there between their legs. If we take those young people, as kind of a sample, there is more to being male or female than what is between your legs. There's also been some experiments in nature versus nurture where a child with clear genitalia, one way or the other, is then, so like a child with male genitalia is raised as a female, or a child with female genitalia is raised as a male, and with the idea, well, it's all in how we raise a child, whether they identify as a man or a woman. And that's also turned out not to work quite as well. I mean, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. We know medically that genitalia, think about it, guys, you compare the size, right? Okay, the genitalia varies. And it varies all the way, even to the point where some people with female genitalia actually have internal male organs, or people with male genitalia may actually have female internal organs. And these are not things that doctors look at. They're just looking at what's between the legs. And so there is a wide variety in genitalia. So to say, well, that genitals determine whether somebody is a male or a female just doesn't seem to cut it. Because there's such a wide variety. I mean, as much of a variety as skin color and hair color, and so, how long our fingers are, the shape of our nose, our eyes, our face, our bodies. As much as there's variety in humankind around all of these other features, there is also in genitalia. What else could define it? Well, I would use the example of, so you have somebody who is clearly male. Everything for that person lines up as male. Their genitalia, the way their brain thinks, the way they think of themselves, all of that matches up. So we would call that cisgender. And this example works better with a guy. So this man goes off, say, to war, and a horrible accident happens, and he loses his genitalia in some sort of horrible war accident. Anyway, is that man any less a man because he no longer has that genitalia? And if he isn't, if he's still a man, why? So I think that our brains are amazing places. And there is medical science that would indicate that back here, in this primitive part of our brain, that there is a portion of this brain, and science is always evolving, and we admit that we don't know much about how the brain actually works, but that back here there are parts of the brain that actually are different in a man and a woman. All right, so now maybe it's the brain. Maybe it's a combination of genitalia and the brain, and even hormones in utero. Because you can read some medical science on that as well. The point is, male and femaleness is far more complicated than just, a quick glance between the legs when you're born and the doctor says male or the doctor says female. He might have made an error. He might have made a mistake. He doesn't see what is internal. He doesn't see what's going on in the brain. He doesn't know what kind of hormonal soup that child has been exposed to in utero. So, and these are things we don't understand. So to insist that maleness and femaleness is all about genitalia and what was put on your birth certificate when you're born is a little bit short-sighted, is not being flexible and creative enough to think about gender as more expansive than the binary. So, for this Independence Day, I'm declaring my independence from binaries. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to be open to new ways of thinking about things. And I want you to consider it too. All right, this has gone on long enough, equals. Have a great week. Enjoy the 4th of July. I will see you next week. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Hit the red subscribe button. You can tap the little bell and it will turn red. And then you would be notified every time I put up a new video. Bye, everyone.